I was struggling to breathe. There's times when I thought I was gonna die several times, and I'm sitting this taking my shahada.
Does that mean at that moment you got possessed?
The Sheikh was like, no, seriously, because people that are around me get attacked quite a lot. His wife would be intimate with the jinn.
A'udhu billah.
She would say, kiss me like the jinn kissed me in intimate areas. It became mad to me.
Spill the beans. Talk to us. What happened?
It's even too much for people to handle. I think the camera's gonna break.
Alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah, amma ba'd, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu, brothers and sisters. Welcome back to another episode of Chai with my Bhai. So as you've seen from the title, this is going to be a very interesting episode. So we've done ruqya on entire crowds at events. We've had possessed sisters trying to attack us in different masajid. We've had to do 5 versus 1 BJJ moves on a possessed brother on an Umrah trip in Mecca. We've had sisters being possessed on Umrah trips in Mecca and in Medina also. We've had jinns trying to attack us personally in our own lives. And you guys should already know this because we've done an episode previously on Chai with my Bhai called Jinn Stories. However, since then, there's been a lot more happening behind the scenes. So we thought it's only right that we do another episode and give you guys the inside scoop and also some benefits that you can take from this, inshallah. One of the most recent experiences was when we were recently in Pakistan, right? And you had the experience of sharing a room with a jinn. Before we get into that, and I really do want to get into that because I'm sure people want to know how on earth did you end up in that position in the first place, and also how was that as an experience? Why is this an important topic for us to discuss here in the first place?
Okay, alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. So I believe this topic is of paramount importance. And the objective here is not just to tell stories, but really it's to make people feel comfortable with the notion that jinn exists. Because jinn do exist, they're around us, okay? Sometimes they're in our houses, sometimes they are outside our houses, and they can see us, we can't see them. إِنَّهُ وَقَبِيلُهُ إِنَّهُ يَرَاكُمْ هُوَ وَقَبِيلُهُ مِنْ حَيْثُ لَا تَرَوْنَهُ. He, i.e. the devil, shaitan, he sees you and his tribe from a place where you can't see them. So, of course, not all jinn are bad. Some are very good. They're believers and some are very bad. The evil ones, this is an enemy that you can't see. Remember how scared people were of COVID because it's like the threat that you can't see? Likewise, shayateen, devils, the bad jinns, they're a threat that you can't see. And they create a lot of havoc and chaos. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, وَزَادُهُمْ رَهَقًا. The shayateen, when the people started to become scared of the jinn, they started to terrify them. So, for me, I want people to become relaxed and comfortable. Jinn exists. There might be one here in the room. And there probably is. And guess what? I'm totally cool with it. And I'm not scared. And you can't be scared of these things because they are a part of life. And I want people to have an increased relaxation and comfort and confidence in knowing that these entities, these beings, they live amongst us. And some of them are a threat. Just like COVID is a threat. Just like cancer is a threat. Okay, just like someone accidentally running you over when you cross the road is a threat. But guess what? Don't be too paranoid. Take your precautions. And how do you combat and protect and defend yourself against these things? For example, ruqya and tawheed and really connecting yourself to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And what are the best practices? Look, I'm not an expert when it comes to jinn. Truth be told, I'm not like Ustad Muhammad Tim Humble, right?
But we've had our fair share of experience over the last.
Yeah, I mean, I think fair would be an understatement. We've had a substantial share of experiences, right? And being part and parcel of the da'wah, you have to deal with jinn cases. You have to deal with people being possessed with magic, with evil eye. You yourself are a target, right? And guess what? I'm totally cool. And it distresses me that there are so many people that are dealing with these issues, but they're not able to protect themselves. Well, you can't protect, Allah protects you, but they're not able to gain that protection from Allah Azza wa Jal, and they're not able to find that cure. Now, of course, Allah tests people. Sometimes people may do exactly what's needed and required, but then Allah wants to test them. He wants them to be patient. There's a way they're going to get to Jannah. But how is it that so many people are unable to overcome the attacks of the jinn and the shayateen? Why is it that so many people are sick and they're not able to get better? Why is it that so many people are literally just sitting ducks? And on the flip side, we who are prime targets for such thing and have had many run-ins with such things, can sit here, kick back, relax, chill, with the permission of Allah, and all praise and thanks belong to Him because nothing but ourselves, and still be okay to come and talk and tell a story with a smile on our face. So that's why I feel it's important. We want people to get comfortable with it, we want people to feel relaxed, we want people to understand this is how you actually deal with it. And we're going to share personal experiences and our personal journey with regards to how we managed to, with stuff on how Allah blessed us with overcoming many difficult circumstances with the demons.
So without any further ado, spill the beans. Talk to us. What happened in Pakistan?
So many people may or may not be aware, we spent some time in Pakistan seeking knowledge. We went to visit a sheikh that Allah Azza wa Jal blessed us with, a truly knowledgeable sheikh, a man of tawheed and sunnah, a man of the Quran, a man of ilm, a man of manhaj, a man of manners. May Allah protect our sheikh, Sheikh Diya'ullah Hafidhullah Ta'ala. So the first day we met him, it was myself, my brother, and Guled, right? So we had a Somali brother come Pakistan with us. We were in the Sheikh's Batek, right? Which is like his majlis area where guests come and they sit. And the Sheikh basically looked at us after pleasantries and talking to us a bit about what the program was going to be like. He was like, by the way, I just want to give you guys an advice. Make sure you read Surah Al-Baqarah. So we're there like, yeah, Sheikh, we love Surah Al-Baqarah. Don't worry, like, I memorized Surah Al-Baqarah. No, Sheikh was like, no, seriously. Because people that are around me get attacked quite a lot.
SubhanAllah.
And then they can't handle it. And then they get pushed off seeking knowledge. And sometimes they get pushed off to Sunnah. Because the shayateen, they don't want them to seek knowledge. The shaitan is scared of a talib ilm. And he's scared of a man on the Sunnah. So he will make your journey seeking knowledge. And I've seen one of the Sheikh's students suffering. Maybe we could talk about it later. Like one of the Sheikh's students gets attacked by the shayateen. He struggles to even like sometimes pray witr. Like he struggles. The shayateen, like he suffers from serious waswas. May Allah protect him to the brother. I mean, point being that Sheikh was like, make sure you read Surah Al-Baqarah. Now, I kind of, read Surah Al-Baqarah regularly anyway. And of course, when, you hear that, and I'll mention to you the hadith the Shaykh mentioned to us, like why Surah Al-Baqarah is so great towards the end, because Surah Al-Baqarah is one of the greatest things you can use to gain this protection from Allah Azza wa Jal. And I'll mention that later, but the Shaykh told us the hadith. But obviously, like I said, I always, generally speaking, read Surah Al-Baqarah quite regularly, right? But the Shaykh was like, no, finish it every day. Or as many times as in as much of a short amount of time as possible. I did it daily. He said, I read it daily. So I said, okay. I didn't fully register it, which is bad of me because my sheikh told me something and I should have done it, right? But it's like a big kind of habit to adopt straight away. So I remember we're there for a couple of weeks. And when it really hit me that I need to start taking Surah Al-Baqarah seriously, I walked into my brother's room one day. And we've got classes with the Sheikh in the morning, right? And the classes were intense. We're going through Aqeedah, we're going through Arabic grammar, we're going through tafsir, and it's long, and you're sitting in one place, just literally like, it's long, it's intense. So I saw my brother, and I could see he's been awake all night. So he's my younger brother, right? Ustad Sa'ad, many may be familiar with him, right, from the Arabic code. So being his older brother, I kind of got a bit upset. Why are you awake all night? Why didn't you sleep? You should have slept. Now you're going to be tired for the Sheikh's class. I thought he'd maybe just been awake all night doing stuff. He looked at me with the most like, not scared, just annoyed. The most annoyed expression. He's like, this stupid jinn wouldn't let me sleep all night. So I was like, huh? What are you talking about? So now I sat down on the sofa and he's on his bed, just not tired. He's like, bro, every time I go sleep, grabs my arm and just does this. He's like, I'm going to sleep, grabs my arm and he does this. He goes, I'm trying to sleep. First I tried to firm it and I was just so tired. Like I was so tired to even do ruqya. He goes, they just keep me awake. He goes, then I said, hi.
Which room was that in? Cause
this was, okay, so this is before you arrived. This was when we weren't staying at the Jamia. We were staying in a little accommodation in Gulberg, in main Lahore, right?
Okay.
So he's like, so I got up, I said, you want more? Go on. So I opened up the Mus'haf, I started reading Surah Al-Baqarah. So when he said that to me, I went into Guled's room. And he's I'm like, bro, you're right. He's like, oh, I feel a little. He's like, he laughed. The way he said it, he laughed and he goes, yeah, I feel a little something here and there every now and again. Like, little bugs in my legs. It's just.
It's just like an itch.
He was like, bro, yeah, he tries a little sign here and there. I just put the Quran on. Alhamdulillah, I hadn't experienced anything like this before, right? As in on the trip. So then I was like, alright, well, so let me go to my wudu. Let me read Surah Al-Baqarah, alhamdulillah. So now I'm reading, alhamdulillah. So now we moved into the Jamia, right? Now the Jamia, which is the university campus, there used to be jinn that occupied the campus before. You know when there's like a barren land, like a barren place, sometimes the jinn occupy. Sometimes, sometimes they're good, sometimes they're bad. And when you come and you want to build on there and, bring people in, sometimes they can get frustrated. Like even Ibn Baz, rahimahullah ta'ala, there was an incident at his time where there was some construction taking place and some jinn, they literally killed some construction workers. And the Shaykh said, look, leave them alone. Like that's the place that they've inhabited. He went and investigated, he came to the conclusion that they've inhabited this place for Allah knows how long. Just leave them. There's no point. Does that make sense? So students started getting attacked. This is many years ago, right? Many years ago. So the Shaykh sent the Qari, the Patan Sheikh, the Qari, to go read. He read. Things got better, but alhamdulillah, things got better. But there's still, like I said, this is a markaz of Tawheed, akhi. Whenever the Tawheed, the Sunnah is being taught proper, people get attacked. Does that make sense? So I'm there now, and I kind of got lackadaisical again, second time. And I found that this thing is just keeping me awake all night. It's just literally, no, sorry. That whole trip, I didn't feel anything. It wasn't me. It was my brother that had the experiences in Goulet. Even after we left Goulet, they were on their own. Goulet was just like, mashallah, had his guard up, right? So when I went back on my own, a few months later, because I had to come back, then I went back on my own, then I felt it. And almost every night, it was bugging me, and I just everything is
bugging. Now, what do you mean? As in, would it just?
Okay, so
describe exactly what.
So many things happen. Like number one, just a quick pause. I promise you, it's going to be worthwhile. Are you possessed? Do you think you might be possessed? Do you know someone else that might be possessed or is possessed? Do you want to help yourself or maybe help them? If so, the way to do it is through ruqya. Now, ruqya is something that confuses a lot of people. They think that you need like some super expert sheikh to come and do it. On the contrary, anyone can do ruqya. Many years ago, I did a course where I went through step by step how to do ruqya from the Quran, Sunnah. We went through magic, jinn possession, evil eye, the specific ayat to recite. And I wanted to give this away for 1p. Unfortunately, the website doesn't allow us to price it anything less than 50p. If I could do it for 1p, I would have given it to you for 1p. All you have to do is click the link below, inshallah ta'ala. 50p, I promise you, what you're going to get and what it's going to be worth at the other end, 50p's is nothing, inshallah ta'ala. So if you're interested, click the link below. With that said, let's get back into the podcast. You feel like a tightness in your chest. You struggle. There's many different symptoms. Like for example, I never had what my brother had, right? So for me, what happens to me a lot of the time is like a tightness in my chest and an anxiety, and it tries to make you scared. Like Guled was saying this as well. Like it tries to put fear in your heart. Like Allah said, إِنَّمَا ذَلِكُمُ الشَّيْطَانِ يُخَوِّفُ أَوْلِيَاهُ. That certainly that's only the devil. He tries to make you scared of his allies. فَلَا تَخَافُهُمْ, don't be scared of them. خَافُونِي فَلَا تَخَافُهُمْ وَخَافُونِي إِن كُنتُم مُؤْمِنِينَ. Only be scared of me, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says. So it tries to make you scared, brings you anxiety, and...
How do you know that's not natural? How do you know that that's a jinn causing that?
Okay, so... Number one, like for example, so look, number one is anecdotal experiences, anecdotal evidences that I can give you, right? So, and number two, there's sexual evidences. There's the anecdotal experiences. For example, the moment I read Surah Al-Baqarah, it disappears. Does that make sense? And not just that. For example, like when my brother's arm is clearly being grabbed. Does that make sense? Like one time we were in the Sheikh's house. And we're talking, right? And the Sheikh's talking about Tawheed. And you find that whenever Tawheed is being discussed, i.e. the oneness of Allah and only worshipping Allah alone and not worshipping any gods besides Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because the shaitan hates this, right? When that's happening, and the Sheikh was talking about the devils, he was like, I can feel them attacking me. He stopped. He's like, I feel them attacking me. And you really feel this pressure on your chest, akhi. And you feel this tightness. And you feel this anxiety. Like, brother, you're totally just overcomes you. Does that make sense?
But does that mean at that moment you got possessed?
No,
by jinn?
no,
Or
no.
it's just from externally?
No, it's not necessarily. It could be possessed, but it's just the shaitan is. Because remember, shaitan whispers to you, right? الذي يوسوس في صدور الناس. He whispers to your chest. He doesn't go into your heart. He whispers to your chest, right? And shaitan flows through you like what? Shaitan can go in and out of you, right? Like he flows through. The Prophet said, "Inna shaitan yajri min ibn Adam majra ad-dam." Shaitan flows through you like the blood flows through the veins. But that doesn't mean that you're possessed. Doesn't mean that you're possessed and he's got control of you. We'll talk about that more, inshallah ta'ala, later. But he affects you. He bugs you. Right? Like I might come up to you, I might not be able to beat you in a fight, but I can like poke you and bug you and scream you and irritate you in your ear and just do things to bug you. Does that make sense? But if we scrapped, like, you might take me down. You might not. You never know. You have to come to the MMA classes on Saturday to see what happens. Point being is that we were in the Sheikh's house and he was like, I can feel them attacking me. And the Sheikh carried on talking and me and one of the Sheikh's other students, and I was like, Sheikh, I feel tightness as well. I'm like struggling to breathe. And he was like, that's what it is. And we carried on talking. And suddenly, akhi, I felt a relaxation. And the Sheikh was like, and I never mentioned to the Sheikh I felt relaxed, but suddenly the Sheikh goes, Alhamdulillah, Allah gave us victory. And we're just talking. And we all felt this pressure. It was not like psychological that I was feeling. No, at the same time we felt the pressure. And the pressure left me and a absolute calm and tranquility overtook me. And at that same time the Shaykh goes, Alhamdulillah, Allah gave us victory. And I said, Shaykh, subhanAllah. Like what do you mean Allah gave victory? He goes, the shayateen have left. I said, how do you know? He said, the calm, the peace, the tranquility. And I was like, I feel the same. And then I said, like, what's the dalil for this, Shaykh? Like, because we have to go by Quran and Sunnah, right? He said, the Prophet ﷺ, did he not say that that never do people come together to remember the book of Allah and to recite it, except that what happens?
The angels descend.
The angels descend and they cover with their wings, and Allah sends down His peace and tranquility. And the mercy encompasses them, and Allah remembers them. Allah makes mention of these people. He says, so these shayateen try to attack us. They want us to stop talking about Allah. Like a lot of people don't realize when they go through anxieties and depressions and all of these things, when they get closer to the deen, it's because shaitan's trying to pull them away from the deen. People struggle to pray salah. Sometimes it manifests as waswas. He's doing his tahara again and again, spend half an hour in the bathroom because shaitan just wants them to stop praying. Does that make sense? So they do whatever they can to take you away from Allah. If you firm it and you strive and you do mujahadatun nafs and jihad against shaitan, what happens eventually is that those angels that have been assigned to look for gatherings where Allah is being mentioned, those angels who have been assigned to look for gatherings where Allah is being mentioned, they find, okay, Allah is being spoken about here. They descend. And the shayateen see this, they run away. And then Allah sends down His peace and His tranquility upon them. And this happened to me several times. And wa Rabbil Kaaba, I'm not lying, it's happening to me right now. I can feel the peace and tranquility of Allah descending upon me right now. Like right now, I feel it. And when I started talking about the shayateen at the beginning, wallahi, I felt a tightness on my chest. It wasn't as bad as it's been in the past, but I felt it. And whenever I fight it and I carry on talking about Allah, this is dhikr, isn't it? That very in the remembrance of Allah, the hearts, they find peace. They find peace. We're remembering Allah. I actually feel the peace and tranquility flooding in me right now. You know what I'm saying? So so this is the proof that it's not something that is like psychological, whatever have you. And it's mutawatir, it's recurrent report. We've seen recurrent reports time and time again of people experiencing these things who've never met, who live in different time zones, who speak different languages from different cultures. And I've gone through X, Y, Z experience.
Kuffar, they have experiences with jinns and shayateen, but they obviously refer to it as ghosts or
UFOs,
alien abductions, or spirits or whatever.
Because jinn do abduct. The jinn do abduct. There was a man at the time, Sahaba radiallahu ta'ala anhum, ajma'een, who was abducted and his wife, they were literally about to marry her off. They were about to marry because her husband's gone. So this is, inqita', this is a ghayba, which is munqati', a disconnected absence. Like he's gone. We waited years for this man to come back, and they're literally about to marry her off to someone else, and he comes back. What happened? I was abducted by the ghoul. You know what's so interesting? Ghoul is what they call ghost, right? It comes from
one, yeah.
right. It comes from the Arabic word ghoul, and the ghoul is the jinn that the Arabs used to refer to who would abduct people. Do you understand? And then they say alien abduction. No, it's jinn. It's jinn. So we've got Quran, ayat, ahadith, examples of Salaf, Sahaba, personal experiences, anecdotal experiences, tawatur, recurrent reporting. So basically, that's what happened in Pakistan. So the point that I wanted to really derive from this Pakistan story and why you asked me about this instead of all the other experiences that we had is that I felt my certainty in Allah reach an all-time high with regards to protection and with regards to the fight against the shayateen in this trip in Pakistan. Because being with the Shaykh who deals with these things daily, regularly, and having his guidance and always bringing an ayah, always bringing an ayah, always bringing a hadith, learning tawheed, being in an environment of just purity, and seeing the effects that it has, and seeing myself like I regularly we were getting it. It was knocking on the door regularly. Hey, do you want to stop seeking knowledge now? Do you want to stop seeking knowledge now? And wallahi, Allah protected us. And
during my stay, I never experienced it. But I think I came for only a week. I was only there for a week, short period of time. When I was there, we shared rooms with frogs, lizards, and other.
But remember that one frog? I think. Remember, we thought it was a jinn because that frog actually came in and disappeared.
And it just kept coming back into the room.
No, it remained in the room for 3 days, 4 days. So I believe that was a jinn, shape-shifting.
Allah alam. Listen,
it was coming to.
We've spoken about jinns in possession with regards to Pakistan and obviously the East. Now I want to focus a little bit more on the West, because obviously we have majority of our viewers are in the West, in the UK, America, Canada, Australia, so on and so forth. Why is it that you feel like people specifically in the West get possessed or affected by the jinns and the shayateen?
This is an amazing question you asked, and I only learnt the answer to this just this last trip I went to Pakistan. There's a brother that we know, right? And I won't mention his name. Very good brother who got possessed. He used to be on the streets, hardcore. Started practicing the deen. He came to Umrah with us. He was actually on the trip, the trip that Umrah with the Man in Part 5, which has been coined Umrah with the Jinns, because it was like 3-4 people that were possessed on that trip, right? That we knew of.
One of them being the one where there was 5 of us.
For example, right now, my veins started twitching here.
But how do you know straight away to attribute that?
Because that doesn't happen. As in it will only happen. And look, this is not my mind playing tricks to me. I'm not scared. It's not like I've made myself scared. And look, it stops straight away. And there's another thing. Everyone's got different kind of experiences, right? And by the way, I'm not trying to say the experiences are like subjective and you have the right to come kind of like dictate your own experiences and perceive. It's based on Quran and Sunnah. There's some things where it's like there's a scope of experiences that you might have, but ultimately the Quran and Sunnah is what guides us and directs us. What I found with me personally, I don't know if it's one or a few or whatever shayateen tried to mess with me, the moment I clock it's them, what happens? They run away. Now, for example, there was a time when I was feeling this, tightness in my chest. Wallahi, I asked my brother, I was struggling to breathe. I was like for like 3 days, 4 days. And I thought maybe that was because of a sin I did. In my mind, I was like, what sin did I do? Because you know when you do a sin, you feel like a tightness in your chest as well, right? So I was like, what sin did I do? And then I was like, no, I don't think there's a sin, bro. So we're doing the lesson with the Shaykh, we're going to Ibn Taymiyyah's book on Qadr. And I said, Shaykh, in the break, I said, I'm feeling a tightness in my chest. Could this be a jinn? Like trying to... And the Shaykh said, I'm confident it is. Akhi, the moment the Shaykh said that, it left me. And my reaction was so funny because I remember my brother literally almost burst out laughing. In fact, I think he did it. He never laughs, and especially in the presence of the Shaykh. But I was like, Shaykh is gone. And he was like, bro, it was so funny the way you were so serious. You're like, Sheikh, and suddenly you're like, wait, Sheikh, I'm good. And like even right now, like I felt the twitch, and this is typical. Like when I'm talking about jinn, when I talk about shayateen, like you know those lectures that I've given, people don't realize I'm giving a lecture. I'm talking about shayateen. I'm feeling. Does that make sense? So it's like, and it will always come, go. It won't give up in it until you're dead. That's why Imam Ahmed, rahimahullah, shaitan was trying to attack him until his last moments on his deathbed, right? So if I didn't, wallahi, if from how I've seen things play out in the past, if I didn't come and mention that to you, it would have stayed probably throughout the whole of the podcast. But the fact that I did, it's like he gets scared. It clocked me. Oh, let me run. It clocked me. Let me run. Because then it's like, okay, he's going to do more dhikr. He's going to do more ruqya. It's going to cause me pain. Does that make sense? So, yeah. That's why I realized that the more I would keep it to myself and I'd feel like, maybe I shouldn't talk about the experiences that I have, it would stay more. Like sometimes it would really bug me, wallahi. Like because remember, it's a mental, we'll talk about the mental health thing, innit? Like there's times when I thought I was going to die several times. And I'm sitting there taking my shahada. Sitting there taking my shahada. Does that make sense? Now, alhamdulillah, it's very short-lived, these experiences, because I just talk about it. I literally be sitting there saying, yeah, it's bugging me right now. And boom, it runs away. Alhamdulillah. Anyway, back to the UK. So there's a brother really good brother, who came to Umrah with us and he got possessed, right?
As he got possessed on the trip, or you mean
it seemed like he already had it. And that's the thing, a lot of people don't realize when you come from Jahiliyyah, because the sins that you did and whatever, there could be music, drugs, zina, and we'll talk about this later, inshallah ta'ala, if we have time. But you know, these jinn, they are close to you, and sometimes they can possess you from early, right? But this particular brother, he struggled. He struggled, right? He was one of the best brothers that I had ever seen in terms of who took on the deen wholeheartedly. He left behind all the sins. He started praying his 5 daily prayers in the masjid, started memorizing the Quran, started seeking knowledge, started implementing what he'd learned. Strong brother, Allah, but if you see him, he's a fighter, he's strong, he's healthy, he's a businessman. When COVID happened, he made £30,000 of selling face masks. Businessman, and he was 18. Like, Allah, this is what you talk about, is an alpha male, like prime guy. Shaitan attacked him, bro. And for 2 years, except for a few days here and there, the brother was on his bed, couldn't move. And his shaitan wasn't like a violent one. It was one of he's out. And he'd be out for like 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and then come back for just a couple of days and he's out again. So I suggested for him for a while, take him Pakistan. The family finally listened. May Allah bless them. Very good family, Allah barik. And he went to Pakistan for some treatment, and then he went to the Jamia. So he stayed in the Jamia, the madrasa, where we were seeking knowledge, right? And the Sheikh done ruqya on him, and the Sheikh analyzed him. And the Sheikh saw his situation. This brother was good. He was Salafi, his Aqidah was good. Ustad Muhammad Ibn Hanbal came to meet him. He diagnosed him. He said to him, I think he's got a problem in his... Ustad Muhammad Ibn Hanbal, wallahi, his diagnosis was amazing. He said to the brother, ruqya works. There's something you're doing wrong.
Okay.
He said, the Quran's not broken, akhi. The Quran is not broken, wal'iyadhu billah. It works. And you're doing everything right. In terms of, you're reading the Quran, you're doing ruqya, hours, everyone's doing ruqya around you. Imran's coming to ruqya, his sister's a hafid of Quran, doing ruqya, his cousins are doing ruqya, he's from a practicing family, like everyone's doing ruqya on him, he's doing ruqya, praying the salawat in the masjid, doing dua, he's got tawheed, he's got aqidah, something you're doing wrong. I said, Sheikh, I think he's got a problem with hope. People don't realize that subtle things. I said, I feel he might be losing hope in Allah. Hope is an aqidah issue. Sometimes it could be tawakkul, which is reliance. Sometimes it could be taqwa. Sometimes it could be sabr. Sometimes it could be what? It could be certainty. Sometimes it could be fear. Sometimes it could be ikhlas. You don't know. Like, it's not just about, am I reading the Quran correctly? Like, am I doing these other things? I said, Sheikh, I feel like he's losing hope in Allah. That's what shaitan's attacking him from. Anyway, he tried to work on that, but we couldn't get through to him. He went to Pakistan. The brother became better, Allah barik. I stayed in the room recently that he stayed in. He built a pull-up bar. He was doing pull-ups. He had all the little kids, the hufad kids in the madrasa, like doing Quran with them, running around, seeking knowledge. He was learning Arabic. He was studying with Ustad Harith. He was with Ustad Ibrahim. Like, Allah barik, he was doing good. He was doing good. And he was doing ruqya. And he has some days where he's out, back. He's quickly back. Does that make sense?
a quick invitation from us to you.
Behind me there are some apartment buildings, and in one of those is my apartment. I'd love to invite you in for a cup of tea, but unfortunately we're in different places within the world right now.
But where I can invite you is to Umrah with the Mandem X, the final chapter. This is the grand finale. There will be no more Umrah with the Mandem after this trip.
Not only is it the last Umrah with the Mandem, but it's actually my last Umrah trip. We've been going hard for 11 trips altogether, 10 trips altogether. It's time for me to hang up my Umrah with the Mandem gloves. But with that said, we're motivated to make this the best trip ever. As you guys have probably seen, Umrah with the Mandem is all about helping people change their life. This trip, we're trying to make sure we maximize on that and help brothers completely transform their lives so they go from being in the depths of sins to wanting to be at the heights of their deen.
And we're so confident that inshallah by the last day of our trip, you're going to be ready to change your life, that if you're not, we'll give you your money back, no questions asked.
Not only that, we're also going to be giving you guys access to our one-year Islamic studies program where Ustad Abu Taymiyyah, Ustad Yasin, Yasir, Ustad Saad, myself, we taught multiple books on the Muslim survival guide. It's worth £800, but you get it for absolutely free.
It's actually worth £900. And not only that, on the Arabic code, Ustad Abu Taymiyyah has taught a conversational Arabic program which has 2 modules, and you'll get access to that. And on top of that, the Brothers Club, you'll get 3-on-3 real men and talk money, 2 of our key fundamental business courses on how to set up a 6-figure company and how to make 6-figure sales.
Because for us, we want it to be a completely transformative experience. It's not just when you're in Umrah, you want to change your life, but when you come back, you want to make sure your deen's on point and your money's on point and the rest of it as well. Finally, there are limited spaces and the price is going up within 3-4 days. So make sure you get in touch with us at the number on screen or the number below and secure a space before it's too late. Because one thing that I've made as a promise to myself is that anyone who doesn't come to this final Umrah with the Mandem, I'm going to make sure that they regret it, inshallah ta'ala. Because I'm going to perform and put together the best trip of my life that I've ever done. And we're going to document it and you're going to see the proof in the process.
With that said, let's get back into the episode.
Assalamu alaikum. Peace. And then he went back home. And when he went back home, slumped. Again in bed. I remember I called his family and what's going on. They said he's
Back to how it was before.
He was there for like 4 months. Great progress that he'd never seen. Actually, his family was getting to a point of like, we just have to accept this for the rest of our lives now. Like, it's not going to change. You knew he changed. So then I went to the Sheikh, like, Sheikh, the brother's gone back home and he's in distress. Sheikh said, I knew that would happen. He said, I had a feeling that would happen. I said, Sheikh, how can you be so sure? He said, there's an ayah in the Quran. He goes, people who live amongst kuffar, who live in the West, who don't live in the lands of the Muslims. He said they get possessed quite a lot. This is the question you asked me, right? I know I gave you a long-winded intro, but it's important to build the whole context so you can see this is from the best of the best.
Okay.
The Sheikh said, Shaitan specifically looks for people of khair. A lot of people wonder, why is it I don't feel no experiences when I don't pray, but when I'm trying to come to Medina, I feel like I'm getting attacked. Ibn Qayyim mentioned there's 2 types of houses. There's Baytul Kharib. There's a house which is destroyed. There's nothing, and then there's a house filled with treasures. Baytul Malik, the house of the king. Which one would the thief want to rob?
House of the king.
House of the king, because there's actually treasures in there. The house has got nothing. You won't want to rob it. So the person who doesn't pray, or he prays wishy-washy, watches pornography, he listens to music, zina, this, that, swears, disrespects his parents, his aqidah is dodgy, he's, Sufi, whatever, he's got funny stuff. Shaitan doesn't care. He's like, bruv, this guy's destroyed. Who do I want to come for? I want to come for the man who's healthy. I want to take... Ibn Qayyim, in his book, Al-Wabil al-Sayba, if people can read Arabic, and then even then can read Ibn Qayyim, he talks at the beginning about shaitan as a thief, though he talks to him about, it's so beautiful that he described as a thief who's trying to rob your iman, trying to rob your salah, he makes you hate shaitan, and really eloquent the way he discusses it. Anyway, point being is the Shaykh was like, shaitan looks for that house that is what? Filled with treasure. He finds that in a lot of the youngsters, the boys and the girls who are trying to come towards their deen. And why does he attack them there? Because he's like, bro, you're in my territory. This is the place of kufr and shirk.
Wow.
And you're trying to what? Become better? No, he attacks them straight away. And one of these attacks them, not just to bring them back, but also because his attack is strongest there. Think about it, right? When you fight your enemy, do you fight them on their turf or your turf? Like if you're in a fortress, do you come out of the fortress? Or do you fire arrows from within the fortress?
From within the fortress.
From within the fortress. You'd be stupid to say, I've got this fortified fortress, let me come out and fight you in your turf, right? So so he's like, you've come out of your fortress. You're not in the land of the Muslims where there's tawheed and sunnah. Okay, look.
Adhan's on out loud.
Adhan's going out.
Specifically.
I think about it. The Prophet said when what you just mentioned, that when the shaitan hears the adhan, what the Prophet say? He runs away farting, akhi. Like he's so scared, he's releasing gas. Akhi, you're hearing adhan 5 times a day loud. Like, please don't give me that waffle about Muslim countries have this problem, that problem, this problem, that problem. Akhi, the fact that the adhan is heard out loud is one reason enough. And not just that, the people, akhi, well, I was with my wife the other day, we went to the mall, okay? And she told me, she was amazed. Went to the prayer room, and at the end of the salah, this sister, she took off her abaya, and my wife was like, it wasn't the ladies' prayer room, my wife's telling me the story. She's like, she was dressed really inappropriately. She goes like, my mind was blown. At the way she was dressed. But may Allah bless my wife. You know what she said? She's like, but I'm amazed at how, despite that sin that she's doing, as she came to pray, wallahi, she's better than a woman who doesn't pray, but she dresses more modestly. Because the salah, how great it is. Now, I'm not trying to justify the sin, but people pray here, bro. Like you see in the sports club, all these kids are, maybe their thighs are a bit exposed because they're playing shorts, whatever have you. But when salah comes in, they all have a special thing that they put on in the masjid. They got a masjid in the sports club. Everyone plays salah. So point being that is definitely better, right? So shaitan's thinking, bro, you came out of your fortress and you're in my fortress now. And you're trying to practice the deen. So I'm going to attack you with everything. And it's always easier. The attack of shaitan is always easier when you're on his turf. It's always easier for him and it's harder on you. And then the shaykh brought the ayah. Allah said, وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا, those who have iman, وَلَمْ يُهَاجِرُوا, and then they don't do hijrah, مَا لَهُم مِّن وَلَايَتِهِم مِّن شَيْءٍ عفوا ما لكم من ولاية من شيء حتى يهاجروا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, those who have iman, and then after having iman, they do not do hijrah. Allah said, they have what? They have no allegiance to you, Muhammad, and the Sahaba. I.e., the allegiance of the believers, Allah has disconnected it from what? The one who didn't do hijrah, from the Prophet ﷺ. Now, by the way, remember, the allegiance of the Prophet and the allegiance of Allah is the same. So if the Prophet's allegiance with you has been disconnected, Allah's allegiance with you has been disconnected. And then Allah mentions the allegiance is only very, very, very circumstantial, and then the ayah goes on. It's not like you're not a believer anymore, so that you've got no allegiance to Allah. No, you've got some very minimal. But point is not ما لكم من ولاية من شيء حتى يهاجروا. Allah says those who have iman and then they don't do hijrah, you have no allegiance with them until they do hijrah. So Shaykh was saying, Akhi, the allegiance of Allah and His Messenger has been disconnected from the Muslims who live with the kuffar. Akhi, Allah's allegiance, what does allegiance? Allegiance means what?
Someone's your ally.
It means love. The love of Allah. It also means the help. Nusra, it means the help of Allah. Open up any Arabic dictionary and look up the word al-wala, and this is what it means. It means love, it means support, it means giving you victory, giving you help, giving you aid, right? All of this comes under wala. So akhi, all of the Muslims who are living, akhi, this is scary. And that's what I'm saying, we could talk about, is hijrah wajib or not, and should we do hijrah or not? Akhi, let's put that discussion to the side for a second. Your allegiance to Allah has been what? Heavily disconnected. So the Shaykh was like, people who go back, what they don't realize is if you want to truly treat yourself, do hijrah.
Wow.
Get the hell out. Get the hell out, bro. You're suffering with jinn. Especially, I know there's some people listening like, bro, I've been struggling for time with magic and jinn and this and that. Get out. Just get out. Just be in Ard al-Tawheed, in the land of Tawheed. You can go anywhere. Anywhere's better than where you are right now. Wallahi, anywhere's better than the lands of what? Disbelief and polytheism. So I was like, wow. So I honestly believe, Wallahu A'lam, that that's one of the reasons why a lot of people in the West, they really
also, as most people are probably aware that sins are a huge reason for you to be possessed. There are specific sins, especially like being intoxicated, doing zina and so on and so forth, listening to music. These are things, and you find that these happen a lot more widespread in the lands of the
100%.
non-Muslims compared
100%.
to. That's not to say they aren't present here, but here, like you said, there's other factors. There's the adhan's done out loud. People come to the salah regularly and so on and so forth. So there's a lot more protection than there would be elsewhere. The next question I have is a very unusual one, and to be honest, probably would never have come to our mind unless we had come across a brother who's recently done this himself, which is, what are the things to consider if you're looking to marry a person and then you find out that that person is actually possessed? What are the do's and don'ts of a situation like that? Like, what are the things you would recommend to a person who may find themselves in a situation? And also, should someone, if they know that they are possessed, should they even be looking for marriage? Should they disclose that? What are some guidelines?
It's a very good question you just asked. So, I remember I made a video about 10 years ago saying no one should marry a sister who's possessed. And I got a lot of heat for that. Some people in the comments, they asked a very good question. They said, well, who's going to help her? Like, it's actually a valid question, right? And obviously this was before I was studying and seeking knowledge and whatnot. And my position on that has steadily changed. My answer to that question is not yes or no. It depends. It depends on you and it depends on her.
So what does it depend on the guy?
So firstly, I want to just start off by showing you how widespread this issue is. It's not like you really have a choice in many matters. It's like trying to find, in this day and age, a sister, or a sister trying to find a guy who, before they started practicing, have had zero sexual interactions. It's kind of a bit of a tough condition. Now, I'm not saying it's not possible, and there are many that have preserved their chastity. But if everyone started saying, I only want to marry, I don't want a girl who's never had a boyfriend. I want a girl who's ever done this, or ever, especially the spectrum of sexual deviation and promiscuity is from watching pornography to all the way to doing zina, right? It's like, bro, we all went to school and saw what happened. How many girls in school did you know that were completely free? Many, but not as many as would be expected. Likewise, boys, and it's only gotten worse now. So likewise, I would just want to add in, like, maybe there was a time where you could say, I just don't want to marry anyone who has no jinn. But it's become so common, extremely common, especially in the West, that's like to have that as a clear-cut blanket statement.
Oh, sorry, so you're not connecting the issue of promiscuity to you're giving an example.
I'm giving an example
of how that has become so widespread.
Let me give you a better example.
Okay,
say I want to marry a girl who's got zero, has got no effect of feminism.
Okay,
bro, it's
understood.
You know what I'm
understood.
saying? Now, I'm not saying the jinn thing is maybe as bad. Allah, I don't know, because it's the issue of the unseen, but it's massive. So then the question here is, did the jinn are here to stay, unfortunately, or the shayateen are here to stay for a period of time? How do I navigate this, right? So I was having a conversation with one of the brothers the other day, and he's like, bro, I'm trying to marry a sister. Her grandma is a magician. So I was like, okay. What would you advise me? I said, most likely the sister's got something. He goes, yeah, I think she might have something as well. He was like, would you advise me? I said, bro, in this day and age, either she's got a jinn, or she's got evil eye, or she's got some magic that doesn't necessarily have jinn. You're going to struggle to find someone who's completely got nothing. Pick your poison. Pick your poison, bro. Okay, cool. She's got no jinn. You happen to find a girl who's got no jinn or nothing. But what if she's got a tongue that's not great? What if, for example, she's been tested with diabetes? What if she's been tested with cancer? My point is that this is a sickness. And everyone's got something. Like, the way I've always looked at it is that, okay, this guy's possessed and he's struggling with it, but he's got it maintained. Like, a lot of people with the permission of Allah Azza wa Jalla, they don't completely get rid of the shaitan when it's possessed, but they can maintain it. Like, they can manage it, right? I was like, okay, so it's like diabetes. Like, if you get diabetes, I'm not an expert, and I've heard that there's ways to overcome it and whatnot, Allahu A'lam, but generally you expect it to be something that's there now, right?
Terminal.
Okay. No, not necessarily terminal, but long term, as in terminal means fatal, right?
Sorry, you're right. I meant chronic.
Chronic, yeah.
Chronic.
So my thing is, okay, so you're gonna manage it now, right? Okay, someone suffers from hay fever. Okay, every now and again it pops up. You just gotta. I like to look at it like that. It's not that deep. Like
just learn how to deal with it, how to live with it, how to overcome it.
Exactly. So it's a part of life. That's what I'm trying to say. It's not a great part of life. COVID wasn't a great part of life, but what we have to deal with it. I'm not gonna marry a girl because she had COVID. Like, do you get me? Now, with that said, maybe a person who's got a very weak immune system shouldn't marry a girl who's got COVID, because then he could die himself. Do you understand? Maybe a person who himself is not strong shouldn't marry someone who's got certain illnesses, because they won't be able to take care of them when it's required. So my point is that it's not as big of a deal as people think. And trust me, bro, it's not that scary. It's not scary, period. It's not, alhamdulillah, it's not scary. Allah said, don't be scared of these things. Only be scared of me. So point being is that now you got to look at your situation. So I know one brother, the brother that you mentioned earlier, who married a sister who had quite a serious jinn possession case. Quite serious. Like, he would wake up he knew of her situation before, and it was quite bad.
He actually married her to help her.
To help her. And that's actually a beautiful thing. Allah said, وَالَّذِينَ Allah said, Wallahu, I actually remember the brother, I spoke with him, and like, are you sure you want to do this? Because I had been trying to kind of help the sister before, and a serious case. And I was like, are you sure? Like Jinn, like, you're going to get woken up in the middle of the night? Because one brother that we know used to wake up in the middle of the night, bang to the stomach. Does that make sense? So I was like, you sure? And I remember the brother said, Wallahu fi awni al-abd ma kana al-abd fi awni akhi. He said, Allah will help his slave as long as his slave helps his brother, or by extension sister, right? So I was like, well, what do you say to that? So alhamdulillah, the brother got married, mashallah, and it was tough.
And he was someone who had experience with these kind of things.
Yeah.
Like he
wasn't a raqi,
he was able to,
but he just, as you know, a guy that's helpful in the community. You know what I'm saying? He kind of knew his thing. So Allah barak, he did it, and I remember, like, you know, seeing him sometimes in the morning, like a tough night, tired, hadn't slept, doing ruqya, but eventually, happily married. May Allah protect them. Allah barik. Kid, mashallah, great. Another brother married a sister who possessed, and total opposite. He wasn't able to maintain. To the point where his wife would be intimate with the jinn. And then she would say, do to me what the jinn did. The jinn kissed me. Yeah, she said, kiss me like the jinn kissed me. In intimate areas. And say, yeah. I remember this brother, he went to one of the mashayikh, and
I'm thinking this intro for this episode is going to be mad. I'm going to say, yeah, you shared a room with a jinn. Next thing you know, I'm going to say, kiss me like the jinn kissed me. The editor's going to have a field day today.
So I remember actually the sheikh went to the brother, and he said, divorce this girl. She wants the jinn to stay. Yeah, she's enjoying it. He said, the sheikh said,
SubhanAllah.
He's like, you know, and what was shocking was that sister used to, she was a Quran teacher.
SubhanAllah.
And the sheikh was like, you know, some people, they have it's like, you know, you want to lose weight, but you enjoy the cookie.
That's mad.
Do you understand?
That's a mad comparison.
The pain, you don't like being fat, right?
Yeah.
But cake tastes nice. So you don't want the jinn there, but he's, you know. So point being is that this brother couldn't maintain, and that basically ended up, you know, it became mad thing. Like I'm saying, his situation, that's a different episode. A mad thing. In fact, when we talk about his episode, I'm not even going to mention this part so that people can't connect it. Because it's even too much for you to handle. I think the camera's going to break. Like, his situation was tragic. And the thing was, he was himself slightly inflicted. He used to get massive waswas from the jinn. So I would say, look, it depends. Are you a brother who is strong, tawheed, resilient? A man, a rajul. I would say it's for a rajul. I'll say it's for a man. I'll say it's not for a brother who hasn't... he may be a male, but he hasn't fully become a man. Does that make sense? I would say that's one of the defining factors. And akhi, you get ajr for it. And if it's not, this is something else. Trust me, no woman comes perfect. So it depends. Seek advice, counsel, but don't write it off from day one. But for some people, I would say, you don't even think about it. What are you doing? you. Come on, Ak.
SubhanAllah, there's literally so many more things that we wanted to go through. We might have to do another episode later on down the line. There's some names in here that needs to be dropped as well, So perhaps...
Yeah, no, drop the name.
We'll save that.
Drop the name.
No, there's a few names. There's actually a few names. But we'll save that for another episode.
Should we talk about Abu Taymiyyah first?
Before we...
Okay, we're going to... Ustad Abu Taymiyyah. We'll leave his refutation. We'll leave his refutation for the next episode.
For another episode. That's not even what I was even referring to. But before...
Not Manny Khan.
He
has to go.
Before we end, what are some key action points that you would want to give to the brothers that are watching that might be afflicted by this, might know someone that is in their family, might know a friend? What are some key action points? And then we'll conclude.
Okay, so before we come and into those action points, there's just one question I feel like that people might have that I would like to answer, right? I mentioned that the sister before, she was a Quran teacher, right? And she was possessed. And people might have this question, like, why are the practicing people, why is it that for them they have these afflictions and they suffer in this way? Why is it that like a guy, he reads Quran, he's a hafiz of Quran, he's always reading Quran, how can he get possessed? Does that make sense? So there's a couple ways to answer this. Number one, there's a difference between ruqya and qira'ah, and I'll mention this towards the end because ruqya is one of the ways to overcome jinn possession with Allah's permission. So there's a difference between ruqya and qira'ah. There's a difference. So people do qira'ah, they recite, but they don't necessarily do ruqya. It has a different thing. The second thing is, I remember our Shaykh Hafidullah Ta'ala, and also Shaykh Tim Humble said this as well, who's an expert when it comes to these things. He said, when I see a person who's lost control of themselves at the time of ruqya, we're talking like the jinn's on the tongue, and they're moving around and violent, and when we got to that stage, he goes, that's an indicator. And I can't say every time in every case, but that's a huge indicator that this person is sinning. They're not being obedient to Allah. So not every time in every case, and sometimes the sin could be an aqeedah issue, like I told you. It could be lost hope, you've lost fear in Allah. It could be that you haven't done hijrah, right? It could be zina, it could be masturbation, it could be music, it could be some vice that you're doing on the side, hidden. Do you understand? And one of the ayat that Shaykh Tim Humble mentioned, he said, Allah said, إِنَّ الَّذِينَ اتَّقَوْا إِذَا مَسَّهُمْ طَائِفٌ مِّنَ الشَّيْطَانِ تَذَكَّرُوا فَإِذَا هُمْ مُبْصِرُونَ. The people who fear Allah, who have taqwa, who don't do sins. Everyone makes a mistake, but they're not consistent sinners. And they make tawbah if they do fall into a mistake. He goes, the ones who are like that, إِذَا مَسَّهُمْ طَائِفٌ مِّنَ الشَّيْطَانِ, if the devil touches them, تَذَكَّرُوا, they remember. They're able to start remembering. They can do dhikr, they can remember, they can recite Quran, they remember. فَإِذَا هُمْ مُبْصِرُونَ. Suddenly they're able to see through the plotting, the plan of the devil. So point being is that when there are two types of people that get touched by the shaitan. One is the person of taqwa, he gets touched. And he says, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. I know exactly what's going on. I remember, I can work, I'm conscious of what's going on. He's okay. You might have to deal with it here and there, difficulty here and there, attacks here and there, but he's not lost himself. Then the other person, he's not a person of taqwa aslan, right? He talks to girls. He's got all these Quran recitations online, but he's following, nasty girls. He's, got sins behind closed doors. Maybe publicly he uploads his sins, right? When shaitan touches him, he's doing dhikr. He's reading Quran. But it's not having an effect. He's not able to see through because he didn't come with the foundation. So that's one of the reasons why that happens. But to answer your question very quickly, look, there's many ways that I can answer this, inshallah ta'ala. The simple answer to this question is to become a wali of Allah. Okay, and a lot of people think when it comes to being a wali, it means you got to be that some super special person. No, Allah said, أَلَا إِنَّ أَوْلِيَاءَ اللَّهِ لَا خَوْفٌ عَلَيْهِمْ وَلَا هُمْ يَحْزَنُونَ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَكَانُوا يَتَّقُونَ. People who have iman and have taqwa. Iman, which is belief in Allah, you got good tawheed, your aqeedah is good, and you have taqwa. So your aqeedah is good, and your taqwa is good, which is what? Which is you stay away from sins, and you do good deeds. Okay? Now the greatest deed that you can do is tawheed. The shaitan clearly said, Allah, I'm going to misguide your slaves, except for your slaves who are completely sincere, they've got no shirk. So shirk is a way for shaitan to grab you. Shirk is a thing for shaitan to grab you on. And by the way, a sin may not be shirk, but it's from the threads of shirk. So even a sin is a way that shaitan has access. So you've got to make tawbah to Allah for your sins. You've got to come off them. And your tawheed's got to be strong. And when you do, so how do you become a wali then? Okay, how do you become wali? There's another hadith. The Prophet said, "Man aada li waliyan faqad aadhantuhu bil harb." Whoever declares, whoever harms my wali, as in my close ally, I declare war on him. And then the Prophet said, وَمَا تَقَرَّبَ إِلَيَّ عَبْدِي بِشَيْءٍ أَحَبَّ إِلَيْهِ مِمَّا افترضت عليه ما يتقرب إلي عبدي بشيء أحب إلي إلا ما افترضته عليه كما قال. My slave doesn't get close to me. He doesn't become a wali to me by anything other than what I have obligated. So the obligatory actions, the salah, the zakat, the hajj, the tawheed, the aqidah, the seeking knowledge of the things that you need to know, being good to your parents, the things that are wajib. If you do that, you get close to Allah.
Yeah.
Then وَمَا يَزَالُ عَبْدِي يَتَقَرَّبُ إِلَيْهِ بِالنَّوَافِلِ حَتَّى أُحِبَّهُ. Then my slave does the secondary actions, voluntary actions. He starts to pray sunnah prays. He doesn't just fast Ramadan, he fasts Mondays and Thursdays. He doesn't just do the first obligatory hajj and umrah, but he does more on top of that. He doesn't just give zakat, he gives sadaqah. He doesn't just seek the obligatory things in terms of knowledge, he seeks on top of that. He said he becomes closer to me. I love him even more. So now you're a wali of Allah. It's through worship, it's through obedience. The basic level is foundation.
We did a whole operation on this on 3-on-3 Real Men.
On 3-on-3 Real Men, right? We actually went through this in detail, right? So when you've done that now, then Allah said, "In sa'alani, if you ask me for anything, لَأُعْطِيَنَّ, I'm gonna give it to you. I'm gonna give it to you. No two ways. وَلَا إِنِ اسْتَعَاذَنِي, or كما قال, if you say Allah, أعوذ بالله. If you say أعوذ بالله, if you seek refuge in Allah by saying أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم, لَأُعِيذَنَّ, I'm going to give it to you. I'm going to give you refuge. That's why some people can say أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم, and what happens? Shaitan's gone. Like Ibn Taymiyyah, when he died, someone was possessed. What did? They said Ibn Taymiyyah's around the corner. He's coming. And then they brought his shoes to show the person when the jinn was inside of him, showed the jinn. He was dead. And the person, Ibn Taymiyyah's around the corner. Like his shoes are here. He's actually taking off his shoes, coming in. He left. Because of how strong his aqidah was just to hear. Does that make sense? Then Surah Al-Baqarah, which I promised we'd do, which is the Prophet said, if you read Surah Al-Baqarah, لا تستطيع عليه البطلة. The shayateen, the jinn, they cannot harm you. It's gone. That's why the Shaykh told us to read it. And doing ruqya in general. And doing dhikr. And there's so many other things, but قدر الله ما شاء فعل. We don't have time. But, we've discussed this stuff in many places. There's a lecture I did. We'll link as many things as we can in the links below, as much resources. Didn't really get to go through the actual ways to overcome. I guess we have to do an episode on that. On that. But at least we accomplished making people not feel too scared and showing them.
Inshallah.
Yeah, I think the first goal we got, alhamdulillah.
So yeah, look out for the third episode, inshallah, in this Jinn series within Chai with my Bhai, inshallah. If you guys benefit from the episode, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe, and comment down below. And as always, brothers, if there's a way in which you think we can help you, then visit www.thebrothersclub.com and you can find out all the ways we can help you, inshallah, on there. With that said, we'll see you in the next episode. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa ant. Astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk.